Tell Me About It is brought to you by Extreme Health Club.
Hello, this is James Brown here on Tell Me About It, Glasgow EPB Channel 6, a local channel. We are without Trevent Hayes today. His day job called and said they needed him. So you got me for as long as I can do this today. These regional tournaments, immediately after the district tournaments, you know, it's kind of 2 weeks of just basketball so far. We've had some good games. We've had some games that didn't go so well for our teams. But let's start with the 15th District Championship game because for those who follow the show regularly, then you know that it ended up being Glasgow and Barron County in the boys' 15th District title game. And the Scotties won the title. They led the game throughout. There was kind of a furious rally in the fourth quarter that got Barron back in the game a little bit, but they ended up winning it by 12, I think was the final, like 70-58. And so that was Glasgow's first district title since 2019 when they beat Allen County 61-54. They actually won back-to-back district titles, 2018 and 2019, which had broken a dry spell since 2011. And that 2011 one's a little bit pertinent because that's about the window of time that Glasgow last won a regional tournament game. They won a regional tournament game in 2012. That's when the guys like LaJuan Smith and Parker Cash and Hunter Bowles, those guys were all seniors. They won a game. And then I think they took Warren Central to overtime. Maybe it was Bowling Green to overtime that year. And then lost in overtime. So they were real close to advancing all the way to the regional final. And this year, you know, they come off the district title, they beating Barron County, and then turned around on Wednesday night and won in overtime over Metcalfe County 70-68. It was quite a game. Interestingly enough, a lot of times teams go to Diddle Arena and then they struggle to shoot the ball. Happened to Barron County at Diddle Arena. But Glasgow actually shot the ball really well in Diddle Arena. Got a number of threes from Josiah Driver and Jalen Bradley, Quinn Nunley. I think John Carter Walbert had one or two of them. And then got inside play from Jarek Martin. He hit the go-ahead bucket in overtime. With, I don't know, 6 or 7 seconds to go, I think, in the game. Maybe it was less, or in that overtime, maybe it was less than that, actually. So they got their first win at the regional tournament since 2012. They punched their ticket to the finals on Monday night against Warren Central, which Warren Central pretty much, they dominated the game against Logan County. They got off to, I think, an 11-0 lead in that game, and they never really got threatened. They got rolling in the third quarter, ended up winning by close to 30 points, I think is the final. So, you know, in the regional tournament, it's the usual suspects in terms of Warren Central winning their first round game handily. Bowling Green won their first round game handily. And they will play the Cinderella, I suppose it would be the Cinderella of, although Glasgow might be the Cinderella. I mean, they entered the postseason with a losing record, and they still have a losing record even though they won 3 straight playoff games. So, but I think a lot of people would think Cumberland County's the Cinderella in a lot of ways because they beat Barron County 54-50. That was Cumberland County's first win in the regional tournament since 1990, so 34 years. Their coach, Curtis Claywell, pointed out that he was born, I think, March 17th of 1990. So he wasn't even born yet by a few days, but the last time Cumberland County actually won a regional playoff game. That game against Barron County, let's go back to that real quick, that they won 54-50. Talking about the shooting in Diddle Arena, that's one thing that Barron did not do very well in that game. I think they hit 7 threes. I think they were 7 of 25. Usually if they hit most games are going to hit somewhere between 8 and 12. And it's not just one person most of the time. I mean, we've had some games where I think Bray Bewley's had 6 threes. Mason Bunch, I think, had 7 threes in a game. William Compton and Tate Spillman have had some multiple 3 games, Jackson Reese as well, but they didn't shoot the ball from outside very well. And Cumberland County took advantage of Zachary Harwood and Braden Purdue getting inside, causing some havoc, especially on the offensive glass. I think that's probably as much as anything. I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but sometimes it's not the numbers, it's the timeliness of the offensive rebounds. So that's kind of what the deal was in the game. Barron didn't shoot the 3 as well as they usually do. And Cumberland County was able to attack them inside. Barron did a better job in the second half, but in trying to slow down Harwood, who I think had 6 or 7 offensive rebounds in the first half, it kind of opened up some opportunities for Braden Purdue to get to the rim, and a couple of other guys kind of on the backside to attack Barron County's defense. Now, the Trojans had a 7-point lead in the third quarter and looked like they were about to take control of the game, kind of put it on ice. And then they, as Coach Warren Cunningham pointed out in the postgame, they had some uncustomary turnovers for them, especially the kind out top on the offense that lead to transition baskets. And that, I think Harwood had a couple of those, maybe 3 of them. And then, so they got some transition baskets off of Barron's turnovers, and that got the lead down. And then in the fourth quarter, Barron again struggled to score from outside. Cumberland County was pushing them pretty far off the line. And then you're on that college court that's got the three-point lines. I don't think that part mattered as much for Barron County because Mason Bunch and William Compton and those guys have shot deep threes this year. They've got range. And so I'm not sure that was as much it as it was that Cumberland County just did a really good job of contesting the threes. And so, it was a tough loss for the 7 seniors for Barron County. But, they were a much better team this year than I expected them to be. I didn't know how the new offensive scheme was going to work for them, but, it worked well most of the year. They struggled a little bit in the playoffs, and maybe that's because teams have an opportunity to scout your sets a lot more and prepare for you a lot more in the postseason than you do in the regular season. The regular season, basically a coach and a team are just focusing on trying to do what they do. Then you get into the postseason, you start to see some of the schemes and that kind of stuff defensively or offensively against the opponent you're playing. So, they had a great season overall, better than expected. They do lose 7 seniors, but they have all of their guards back, I believe. Cashmore was a guard, but all the ones that played significant minutes were underclassmen. They'll have to, replace some of the size and definitely some of the shooting, because I think 3 of the seniors were, 2 of them were 2 of their top 3-point shooters. Let's get back to Glasgow real quick. The interesting thing is for the Scotties is that during the course of the season, it was always a case of, can they play a complete game? When you can beat teams like Adair County, or you can play with teams like Bowling Green, which is a favorite to win the region, then folks will look at you and say, okay, that you have a ceiling that's really high. But then you go and you lose games that you just shouldn't lose. Because what was happening during the season is they'd have 4 or 5 minute stretches in games where they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, to be honest with you, they were struggling either on offense or defense during those stretches in those games. And Coach William Buford has talked about this, that there would be quarters during games that he was like, all right, if I can take that quarter and we can play like that for an entire game, which is hard to do in high school basketball, then I know we can do things. And so that's been the transition in the playoffs. He was asked about it in the post game after they beat Metcalfe County in overtime. And he, what's changed? And he said, well, it's one and done. They're awake now that the threat of going home, of losing, has ignited a fire. And we're seeing a bunch of different people play well. I mean, what you're going to get out of Jarek Martin. I think he's done fine offensively, but his defense and rebounding has been a big key in the postseason. Then you've got, John Carter Walbert, who hit the game winner against Warren East in the district first round game, which ignited this run. You know what you're going to get out of him. So then you get the guys like Josiah Driver and Jalen Bradley, Landon Minton, Jeremiah Driver coming in and making plays. And you've got to have those other guys that are going to play well in the postseason. As they say, about basketball, a lot of times when the pressure's on, which team's role players, so to speak, are going to be the ones that step up, the ones that your opponent's not designing defenses to slow down. They might want to, check them and that kind of stuff, but they're not concerned about scheming up something to really stop them. And in those moments, those are the guys that have to have big days. And, Josiah Driver and Jalen Bradley have certainly done that offensively and defensively. And then Quinn Nunley, he's a stat book filler. He ended up with, 14 points against Metcalfe County, but I think he had 2 blocks and about 5 rebounds, some steals. He's a guy that kind of does all kinds of different things. So you may look at the stat sheet, he may only have 2 or 5 points in a game, but you kind of have to look across there to see everything else he did to really affect the game. So, they may have a losing record, but it's like one of those teams. My friend and co-host on the Brown Sports Bag, John Butler, says they're a team that you look at and you saw that they were, 10-19, but they were also a team that could have easily been 19-10 if they played consistently throughout the season. So, we'll see how it goes in the boys' 4th region tournament. It's been a long time since somebody other than Bowling Green or Warren Central played in the championship game of the boys' regional tournament. And it's been an even longer time since somebody not in the 14th district won that tournament. I don't know if this is the year that things change, but there are some bright spots on the horizon. All right, this is James Brown, 104 The Score, and we're here on Tell Me About It, Glasgow EPB Channel 6, local channel. We'll be right back.
Extreme Fitness has doubled in size, now with over 8,000 square feet of co-ed weights and an upgraded 90-degree saline therapy pool. The Extreme Fitness campus also holds the exclusive Extreme Fitness for Women complex and Extreme Blend smoothie bar. You have to experience the variety of classes to realize the impact they have on their clients. Personal training is with the best in the business and is available and tailored to fit individuals. So start your journey today at Extreme Fitness and Health Club.
Introducing the Glasgow EPB Customer Payment Portal and mobile app. With our new sleek and user-friendly payment portal, managing your Glasgow EPB services has never been easier. And if you need to make a payment on the go, our new mobile app lets you pay your bills with just a few taps. The Glasgow EPB Customer Payment Portal and mobile app, because managing your Glasgow EPB services should be as simple as flipping a switch. Visit glasgowepb.com/billpay today to sign up and download the app.
Welcome back to Tell Me About It here on Glasgow EPB Channel 6, the local channel. I'm James Brown with 104thescore.com. You can catch this show every Thursday on its first run at 6 p.m. You can catch it anytime on the Glasgow EPB YouTube channel or on 104thescore.com. Trevent Hayes obviously can't be with us today. His day job called, said they needed him. Before we get to this girls' playoffs, I wanted to mention that by the time we see you again next week, it'll be baseball / softball / track / tennis / is there something else season. It all starts on Monday, March 11. I think Barron County's softball team is hosting Bowling Green. Barron County's baseball may be playing at Bowling Green. I believe Glasgow's baseball is playing Central Hardin. I can't remember whether that's a home or away game, to be honest with you. And then Glasgow's softball will start on Tuesday. I can't remember who they're playing. Once basketball season's over with, then I'll sit down and well, not over with. Actually, it'll be once Friday rolls around and I don't have a basketball game to go to, I'll have all the schedules and everything on 104thescore.com, and we'll be transitioning to coverage of spring sports. Anyway, back to basketball. When the girls, before the girls' fourth region tournament started, before the playoffs, the district tournament started, I was thinking to myself, there are 4 teams that could win the girls' fourth region. Obviously, Franklin Simpson would be the favorite. They only have 1 loss all season. They pretty much dominated everybody they played in the fourth region, except Barron County. They only beat them by 9. Everybody else they beat by 20 or more. Well, they beat Bowling Green by 18, so close to 20 or more. And so then I was thinking to myself, you have them, and then you have Bowling Green, which has had an up and down year because of the injuries, people coming back from injuries. And, so and they played a tough schedule. They always play a tough schedule. So their record doesn't look as imposing. You had Warren East, I think, went into the playoffs at 24-4. Barron may have been 20-7 when the playoffs started. And so I'd kind of thought to myself, it could be interesting once they do the bracket draw, because East and Barron were in the same district, that you could have 3 of the better teams on the same side of the bracket, because you could have 2 district winners and then one of whomever the runner-up was going to be from the 15th. Well, it didn't work out that way because, of course, Allen County stunned Barron in the first round of the district tournament, which meant one of the top 4 teams was not going to be at Diddle Arena when the tournament started. And that meant the bracket draw was going to wind up. You were going to have 2 of the district winners on the same side. But one of those 4 teams, 3 teams left, was going to have a clear path to the championship game. And the way it worked out is Franklin Simpson drew and Bowling Green drew on the same side of the bracket, which then landed Warren East all alone as one of the top 3 teams remaining on their own side of the bracket. And I was like, all right, well, I guess Warren East is going to be cruising on to the regional final, and let's see if somebody can stop Franklin Simpson. Well, not so fast, my friends, because Todd County Central had something to say about all that. Alexis Taylor and Abby Williams had huge games, and Todd County beat Warren East 70-64. It was an upset. I mean, I think Todd County's record was 18-11. They have a good team. They've had a good season. They have a really outstanding player in Alexis Taylor. But it's just like one of those things. You just, as the game's going along, you're like, well, Warren East is going to get figured out. And they were down 43-20, I think, at one point. At least 43-23. They were down by 20, and I think it was 43-20 at one point in the first half. So it's that thing. They are in Diddle Arena. These players for Warren East have not been there. They didn't make it out of the district last year, their first year in the 15th. So I don't know if it's sight lines or whatever. They're a team that can shoot threes. They didn't shoot the threes very well. Todd County's strength is inside, especially with Taylor, and they had no answer for her, especially in the first half. Now she got into foul trouble, and that opened the door for Warren East to come back. And they rallied late in the game, but they never caught all the way up. It's kind of hard to come back from 20 down and play with that level of intensity for as long as you need to in order to complete the comeback. And then Taylor ended up fouling out in the fourth quarter, and it looked a little shaky at that point. But then Abby Williams, the senior, she stepped up. I think she missed one free throw in the post game. We talked about that. She's like a 77% shooter on the year, and she said this is her worst free throw shooting year. Well, she made all the ones she needed to make in that game, and that really held off the Lady Raiders. So, their excellent season came to an end. They have maybe two seniors. Most of their key players, except for Ray Ellen Jones, are younger players. I think she's starting center, and she was a senior. So, that was kind of stunning. And then, so that kind of flips up that side of the bracket. The other game on that side of the bracket is Metcalfe County and South Warren. Metcalfe won 52-40. I think they led the whole game. They may have been down 3-2 early or something like that. But they basically led the whole game. Played pretty well. This is a group of players that have a lot of experience at Diddle Arena, and they kind of played the game like they'd been there. And they also, they may only have a couple of seniors. Actually, they only have one senior, Anna Grace Blythe. I believe she's the only senior on that team. And on top side of the bracket, Franklin Simpson rolled over Allen County Scottsville in the first game in the tournament on last Sunday. It was 60-31. They looked so good. They were up, I believe they were up 26-3 in that game. They just were all over Allen County in that game. Allen County really struggled. That was their first time at the regional tournament, I think, since 2016, I think is what it was. So none of those players had ever played there. And you kind of tell Franklin Simpson has players who have played there, even though they weren't on Franklin Simpson's team last year. Larisha Cawthorn is who I'm talking about. She played at Russellville last year, and they ended up losing to Barron in the regional tournament. And she's a junior, and she's a huge difference maker. Her size and her athleticism, she's turned into a much better shooter than she was last year. So they're going to be tough to beat. Those games are tonight, as a matter of fact, the semifinal games. And they'll be playing Bowling Green, which beat Russell County 44-40. I think they were up, Bowling Green, I think, was up 40-28. So Russell County made a furious comeback in the last few minutes of the game to make it close. And so that sets up, the first game is at 6 o'clock. So you can watch this as you're watching that game. And it's Franklin Simpson and Bowling Green. I think whichever team there wins, most people would pick to win the region. Most people pretty much expect Franklin Simpson to win the region. And there's, as I laid out earlier, there's a good reason for that. I don't know how that game's going to go. It'll be an interesting game. So I'll be there as you're watching this, watching that. And then the other game is going to be Todd County Central and Metcalfe County. Obviously, Todd County's in that Cinderella role. But one of two teams that have not, to be honest with you, I'm not sure if either of these teams have made it to a regional final. Off the top of my head, I don't know. On the girls' side. So, it could be an interesting outcome here. But yeah, it's just going to be hard to beat Franklin Simpson. Their guard plays good. Cawthorn runs the floor. They have length. They can trap you. They can pressure you. They're going to be quick. They're hard to beat up and down the floor. Bowling Green is a kind of a slow it down team this year. They have a couple of really good shooters. But the one player they do have, Josiah Franklin, that could probably cause Cawthorn some problems. She did not play in that first round game. And Coach Calvin Head talked about that in the post game and said there was a good possibility. He was hoping that she'd be able to play tonight. And we'll see if that's the case. But it's not exactly chalk. After Bowling Green, I think, had won the last three. Yeah, they'd won the last four. They'd won 4 straight regional tournaments. Their last time not winning was 2019 when Barron County won it and went to the state tournament. And really, there's not been a threat from anybody other than Barron against Bowling Green in these last few years to win the regional tournament. So we could have a new champion this year, and as a matter of fact, we could have a first-time champion. So that's something to look forward to. The championship game will be Saturday at 7. There are no games on Friday in the regional tournaments. And then, like I said, the boys tournament will start again on Monday. Glasgow will play at 7:30 Monday, I believe is what their time is. And then the boys championship will be Tuesday at 7. And that's all I got for you this week, folks. When we come back next week, we'll know who's going to the state tournaments. We will have some discussion about some softball and baseball at least, and maybe even some tennis and track. By the way, on the track side of things, the KHSAA had its first ever indoor state track meet this past weekend, and Glasgow's Cynthia Austin finished second in the triple jump. I don't know how much triple jumping she'd been doing because she basically got done with the basketball season on Monday and went and jumped in the state meet on Sunday. So 6 days later or whatever it was. So congratulations to her. Lucas Christian finished 7th in the 60-meter hurdles. They don't have 100 meters indoors. They just have 60s. So I think that was in the 60-meter hurdles. Of course, he had an outstanding year last year in the outdoor season in the hurdles. And Cindy Austin had a good season in the triple jump. So congrats to them. And now they can go brave the weather as it begins to transition to the spring. We'll be back next week. This is Tell Me About It. This is James Brown here on Glasgow EPB Channel 6, local channel.